The security footage played on every news channel across the country. 17-year-old Sophia Blackwell, daughter of tech mogul Richard Blackwell, stood on the edge of Westfield Academy's roof, tears streaming down her face as she looked down at the crowd gathering below. Then, from nowhere, a man in a gray maintenance uniform burst through the door behind her. What happened next would change both their lives forever, and shake the foundations of a billion-dollar empire. If you're moved by stories of unexpected heroes and second chances, hit that like button and subscribe now. Trust me, you'll want to see how this unfolds. Marcus Jenkins wiped the sweat from his brow as he pushed his cleaning cart down the empty hallway of Westfield Academy. At 42, his body ached from years of physical labor, but he kept moving. He had to. His 14-year-old daughter Zoe depended on him, and the medical bills weren't going to pay themselves. Jenkins. The sharp voice of Headmaster Winters cut through the quiet corridor. There's a spill in the science wing. Take care of it immediately. Marcus nodded, swallowing the retort that bubbled in his throat. 6 months at this prestigious private school had taught him to keep his head down. The wealthy students barely noticed him as he moved through their world like a ghost, cleaning up their messes, fixing what they broke. Yes, sir, he replied, turning his cart around. As he made his way to the science wing, Marcus's phone vibrated. A text from Zoe's doctor. The experimental treatment they'd been hoping for, the one that might finally help with her chronic condition, had been approved. But the insurance wouldn't cover it. $75,000 out of pocket. Marcus leaned against the wall, his chest tight. He'd been working 2 jobs for years, saving every penny, but it was nowhere near enough. He'd applied for every assistance program available, but they'd all turned him down. Too much income for aid, too little to actually afford the care his daughter needed. The irony wasn't lost on him. Here he was, surrounded by wealth beyond imagination, while he couldn't even afford to keep his daughter healthy. As he rounded the corner to the science wing, a commotion caught his attention. Students were running toward the stairwell, phones out, excited voices echoing off the marble floors. She's on the roof. Someone call security. Is she really going to jump? Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He abandoned his cart and followed the crowd, taking the stairs 2 at a time until he reached the top floor. The door to the roof access was propped open, a cold winter wind whistling through the gap. Without thinking, he pushed through. Sophia Blackwell stood at the edge, her designer uniform flapping in the wind. Marcus had seen her before, everyone knew Richard Blackwell's daughter. Her face was plastered across tabloids weekly, usually caught in some new scandal. The girl who had everything, yet seemed determined to throw it all away. "Don't come any closer," she shouted when she heard the door open. Marcus raised his hands. "I'm not going to force you to do anything," he said calmly. "But I'd like to talk, if that's okay." Sophia laughed bitterly. "You're the janitor. Why would I talk to you?" "Because I'm the only one up here," Marcus replied simply. "And sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger." The wind whipped around them, carrying the sounds of sirens from below. A crowd had gathered in the courtyard, phones pointed upward, recording what might be the tragic end of a billionaire's daughter. "They don't care about me," Sophia said, nodding toward the crowd. "They just want to see me fall. It would make a great video, wouldn't it? Billionaire's daughter takes final plunge. My father would probably appreciate the stock price bump from the sympathy." Marcus took a careful step forward. "I don't think that's true. And I don't want to see you fall." "Why not? What difference does it make to you?" Marcus thought about Zoe, about the text message burning in his pocket. About all the times he'd felt hopeless, standing at the edge of his own metaphorical cliff. "Because I know what it's like to feel like there's no way out," he said. "I know what it's like to think the world would be better off without you. But I also know it's not true." Something in his voice made Sophia turn slightly, really looking at him for the first time. My daughter has a rare autoimmune condition, Marcus continued. Her mother left when she was diagnosed. Said she couldn't handle it. For years, I've been fighting insurance companies, working multiple jobs, trying to keep her alive and give her some kind of normal life. Why are you telling me this? Sophia asked, but her voice had lost some of its edge. Because there have been nights I've sat in my car and wondered if my life insurance would be worth more to her than me struggling to make ends meet. But then I remember that money isn't what she needs most. She needs me. Just like someone needs you. Sophia's eyes filled with fresh tears. Nobody needs me. I'm just a disappointment. A PR problem. My father's biggest failure. I don't believe that, Marcus said, taking another step closer. And I think deep down, you don't either. Otherwise, you wouldn't be standing on the edge. You'd have jumped already. The truth of his words hung in the air between them. Sophia's shoulders slumped slightly. I just want it to stop, she whispered. The pressure. The expectations. The loneliness. I know, Marcus said. But this isn't the way. This is permanent. And whatever you're feeling right now, it's not. He was close enough now that he could see the mascara tracks on her cheeks, the trembling of her hands. She was just a child, really. A lost, hurting child. My dad won't even notice I'm gone, she said. He hasn't spoken to me in 3 weeks. Not since the tabloids ran that story about me and my teacher. The one they later retracted because it wasn't true? Marcus asked gently. Sophia looked surprised. You saw that? The small correction they buried on page 12? Yeah, I saw it. Not fair, is it? How they can destroy someone's reputation and then whisper the truth when no one's listening anymore. A gust of wind made Sophia sway dangerously. Marcus's heart leaped into his throat. Sophia, please. Step away from the edge. Whatever's happening, we can figure it out together. You don't even know me, she said. I know enough, Marcus replied. I know you're hurting. I know you feel alone. And I know what it's like to think there's no way out. But there is. There always is. He extended his hand. Please. For a long moment, Sophia stared at his outstretched hand. Then, slowly, she reached out and took it. As Marcus pulled her away from the edge, the door to the roof burst open. Security guards rushed forward, followed by teachers and administrators. Camera flashes from below captured the moment, the school janitor pulling the billionaire's daughter to safety. What no one captured was what Sophia whispered to Marcus as the guards surrounded them, "Thank you for seeing me." The next day, Marcus arrived at work to find Headmaster Winters waiting for him. "Mr. Jenkins," the headmaster said stiffly. "Mr. Blackwell would like to see you in my office." Marcus's stomach dropped. Was he about to be fired? Had he overstepped by interfering yesterday? When he entered the office, Richard Blackwell stood by the window, his back to the door. He was taller in person than he appeared on television, his custom suit unable to hide the tension in his shoulders. "Mr. Jenkins," Blackwell said without turning around. "You saved my daughter's life yesterday." "Anyone would have done the same," Marcus replied. Blackwell turned then, his face a mask of controlled emotion. "No. They wouldn't have. They would have recorded it on their phones. They would have called security. They would have waited for someone else to act. But you didn't wait. You acted." He walked to the desk and picked up a checkbook. "I want to thank you properly." Marcus shook his head. "That's not necessary, sir." "I insist," Blackwell said, already writing. "Name your price." The text message about Zoe's treatment flashed in Marcus's mind. $75,000. It would solve everything. But something made him hesitate. "Sir, with all due respect, I don't want your money. Blackwell looked up, genuinely surprised. Then what do you want? Marcus took a deep breath. I want you to talk to your daughter. Really talk to her. She thinks you don't care about her. That you're ashamed of her. The billionaire's expression hardened. You don't know anything about my relationship with my daughter. You're right, Marcus agreed. I don't. But I know what she told me on that roof. And I know what it's like to be a parent who's trying their best but still falling short. For a moment, it seemed like Blackwell might explode with anger. But then something shifted in his eyes. My wife died when Sophia was 8, he said quietly. Cancer. Fast and brutal. I threw myself into work because it was the only thing that made sense. I thought I was providing for Sophia by building something that would last. Something that would secure her future. But somewhere along the way, you lost sight of her present, Marcus finished for him. Blackwell nodded slowly. When I saw her on that roof. His voice broke. I realized all the money in the world wouldn't matter if I lost her too. Marcus thought about Zoe, about all the late nights he'd spent working instead of being with her. About how easy it was to convince yourself that providing was the same as parenting. It's not too late, he said. She's still here. You're still here. Blackwell studied Marcus for a long moment. My daughter told me about your situation. About your daughter's condition. Marcus felt a flush of embarrassment. He hadn't shared his story with Sophia to gain sympathy or financial help. Sir, I didn't. Blackwell raised a hand to stop him. I know you didn't. That's precisely why I'm going to help. Not as payment, but because it's the right thing to do. He tore the check from his book and handed it to Marcus. It wasn't made out to him, but to the medical center where Zoe was being treated. And it wasn't for $75,000. It was for $750,000. This will cover your daughter's treatment and establish a fund for her future medical needs, Blackwell explained. Additionally, I'd like to offer you a position at Blackwell Industries. Our charitable foundation needs someone with your perspective. Marcus stared at the check, unable to process what was happening. I don't understand. You showed me something yesterday, Mr. Jenkins. Something I'd forgotten. That true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in how we treat each other. In the connections we make. In seeing people for who they really are. 3 months later, Marcus stood in the auditorium of Westfield Academy, watching as Sophia Blackwell took the stage. The audience fell silent as she approached the microphone. 6 months ago, I stood on the roof of this school, ready to end my life, she began, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. I believed I was alone. That no one would miss me. That I didn't matter. She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. I was wrong. And I'm standing here today because one person, someone I had never really seen before, saw me. Really saw me. In the front row, Richard Blackwell watched his daughter with pride and pain mingled on his face. Beside him sat Zoe Jenkins, her color better than it had been in years, the experimental treatment already showing promising results. My father and I have established the Seeing You Foundation, Sophia continued. A nonprofit dedicated to mental health support for teens and young adults. And I'm proud to announce that our first initiative will be fully funded counseling services at every public school in the state. The applause was thunderous. Marcus felt tears prick at his eyes as he watched his daughter clap enthusiastically beside the man who had changed their lives. But it wasn't the money that had saved them. It was connection. It was being seen. It was the moment on that rooftop when two broken people recognized each other's pain and reached out instead of turning away. As the ceremony ended, Marcus found himself face to face with Richard Blackwell once more. You know, the billionaire said thoughtfully, when I was building my company, I thought success meant accumulating wealth. Creating the next big innovation. being the richest man in the room. He looked over at Sophia, who was chatting animatedly with Zoe. But I was measuring the wrong things. The true measure of success isn't what you have. It's what you give. It's who you help. It's the lives you touch. Marcus nodded, thinking of all the changes the past months had brought. His new position at the foundation allowed him to help families like his own, people who were falling through the cracks of a system designed for those who already had advantages. And more importantly, it gave him time with Zoe. Time to be her father, not just her provider. Sometimes, Marcus said, watching their daughters laugh together, the most valuable thing we can give someone is our attention. Our understanding. The simple acknowledgement that they matter. Richard clapped him on the shoulder. Indeed, Mr. Jenkins. Indeed. As they walked toward their daughters, Marcus reflected on the strange path that had led him here. From a janitor mopping floors to the director of a foundation changing lives across the country. From a desperate father unable to afford his daughter's treatment to a man helping others find the resources they needed. All because he had stopped to really see someone who felt invisible. In the end, that was the miracle. Not the money. Not the job. Not even Zoe's improving health, though he was grateful for all of it. The true miracle was the reminder that in a world where people so often looked past each other, the simple act of truly seeing someone could save a life. And sometimes, in saving someone else, you end up saving yourself. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content that reminds us of our shared humanity. Remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for another person is simply to see them, truly see them, when they feel invisible to the world.